Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's the Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
It is time for another episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. I am your host, Heneka Watkis-Porter. Now, if you've been listening over and over and over again, or even one time before, then I want to say welcome back. And if this is your first time, then a very pleasant welcome, warm welcome to you. Now, last week, I went solo. I talked about something that has been very deeply personal to me, for me, and that's infertility. Right. So this week, I am excited to have a discussion about our ancestry and how that affects our current potential. And of course, I have a guest that I'm going to be introducing later. But before I go into all of that, I just want to say thank you to those persons who continue to make the Entrepreneurial You a success. They continue to support, financially and support in other ways. And they are the National People's Co-operative Bank of Jamaica Limited, Profit Jumpstarter, and the Jamaica Stock Exchange, whose podcast, the Jamaica Stock Exchange and You, is produced by me. It's also hosted by me as well. So I encourage you to give it a listen when you get a chance. Here's a word from the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and after that, I will come back with a business tip and then introduce my guests to get the conversation going. Stay tuned.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mahfood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Welcome back. And here's our opening business tip from the National PC Bank of Jamaica, and it is to research your competition. You need to analyze your competition. You can't be afraid to study and learn from your competitors. Do your research. You may find that there are products and services that you can offer your clients and customers that your competitors cannot and do not. All right, so I'm about to introduce my guest, but you perhaps are wondering, why is my voice sounding this way? And yes, I'm sounding a little off because I'm extremely exhausted. Let me just tell you that, but I'm committed to you to bring this episode to you. So today, this episode is my only work, quote unquote, work for the day. And then I'm going to just break, rest is important. All right. And I try to practice a harmonious life. So I'm going to do that just as we're done. All right, enough of me rambling and going on and on and on. It's now time to bring on my amazing guest. And this is episode 289 of the Entrepreneurial You. My guest is Judy Wilkins-Smith. Judy is a highly regarded expert in organizational, individual, and family patterns, a systemic executive coach, trainer, facilitator, thought partner, and leadership conference and motivational speaker. She has 18 years of expertise in assisting high-performance individuals, Fortune 500 executives, and legacy families to end limiting cycles and reframe challenges into lasting breakthroughs and peak performance. As the founder of System Dynamics for individuals and organizations, she collaborates with individuals and corporate decision makers to implement innovative whole system design elements, ensuring balance, or what I like to call harmony, appetite for excellence, passion, and sustained process. She's the author of Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns. Welcome, 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 Judy.
Hi, Heneka. It's lovely to be with you. I look forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely, and I'm happy that you are here. Just tell me a little bit about Jamaican culture, if you know anything about it. What do you know, if any?
I don't know much. I've been on vacation there, so I can tell you that I love jerk patties.
Mm-hmm.
What else? They're very, very gentle and laid back. Oh, and they play cricket, which they also play in the country that I came from, South Africa. So cricket is a great love for me, and I hold that near and dear. So that's our biggest commonality, I think.
Ah, interesting. All right. So you do know, you get a pass, okay?
Thank you.
All right. So here is a fact, right? People around the world are really fascinated with their ancestries, right? It is stated that over 100 million family trees have been built on Ancestry.com because we know, there's something important about our heritage, something about what it tells us. Yet there is more to it than just where we belong. Our ancestry holds all the clues to what is holding us back and what is waiting to be unleashed. Unpack that statement for me, Judy.
Sure. So when we talk about how it holds us back, and first of all, let's talk about what emotional DNA is and how it can hold you back. So emotional DNA is your inherited patterns of thoughts, feelings, and actions. Your sadness may not be your sadness. Your anger may not be your anger. It may be an ancestor's, but it echoes down through the system all the way to you. And what it often does is it presents as a limitation. So now it's holding you back. But what it's wanting to do is it's wanting to get your attention so that you can look at it and say, this pattern isn't working for me anymore. I acknowledge the pattern that's in place and I thank it for getting me this far, but it's time for me to do something different. And when you do something different, you're now using that ancestry to unleash something new.
So I think there was a time when we believed that, we can't change our DNA at all. What we're born with, that's it. It's our lot in life and we can't do anything about it. But what I hear you say is that that's a lie, because we can be intentional about shifting and changing the way our DNA is, which reflects a lot of times in our thought process, or it begins in our thought process, in our emotions, which get manifested into what we do, or habits, or attitudes, and so on.
Yes. So your physical DNA is your physical DNA. However, it has on-off switches as well, receptors on the body of the DNA. And what we know is that if you have an event and the emotional impact is strong enough, it creates an imprint that becomes a blueprint for generations of similar behavior. And that can turn on and off the receptors on those cells. So in effect, you're quite right. If we are intentional, we can begin to change the way things are and start moving to what's possible. We are very seldom limited or stuck. We've just been taught that we are, but it's not the truth.
And so many of us, we hold on to that, what we've been told, the lies that we've been told, because essentially they are lies. We hold on to them. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's not necessarily lies, actually. What it is we hold on to a way of thinking and being which was right at the time in terms of being a solution for what was happening. But here's the problem. What was a solution in one generation no longer is in the next generation. And it's time for that to change. So what we've got to do, though, is not exclude. We're very quick to say those who came before us did terrible things. They probably did the best they could with what they had. If we instead look at what they did and say, this has allowed me to take a new step, we don't stay stuck. Otherwise, what you can see, is generations of people suffering. You'll hear this often, Heneka. You hear people say, never forget. Well, yes, that's a good point. You don't want to forget what happened, but you don't want to keep repeating what happened or keep holding on to it as though it were your suffering. It's not your suffering. Somebody else had an experience and it impacts you severely. But are you going to use that experience to say, I suffer too? Or are you going to use that experience to say, I rise up? The choice is yours.
What that requires is a shift in our mindset, a shift in our attitude, a shift in our thinking. But that sounds so easy to do, but is it?
It is. We make it difficult because we're taught, think about it, in all the major religions of the world, we're taught that we are sinners, we're sufferers, we're limited. So that's what we grow up with, and that's what we know. And of course, if somebody says to you, well, you know, if you go out and do well, your soul's going to be eternally damned, that's enough to say to you, you know what, I'll just suffer in silence. It's not the truth. Mm-hmm. What we have to start realizing is that we are actually limitless beings, not limited, limitless, and that it begins with new thoughts, new feelings, and new actions. And in that way, we don't have to carry the burdens of those who came before us. We can look at them, we can thank the burdens for giving us wisdom, and then we can start a new path. And that's when humanity starts to rise up. We don't look at each other and see the differences. We look at each other and see the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. You know what is true? And I think a lot of us too also, because and this is not a conversation about religion or, you know, in defense of religion, but what it is, a conversation is about truth. And so I think as it relates to even the religion or, you know, that I ascribe to, which is Christianity, a lot of people sometimes misinterpret, because one of the things that we are, the Bible, our basis is very clear on, is that we are kingdom, we're royalty, we're kingdom people, we are above and not beneath. But guess what? A lot of times, because a lot of people who are quote unquote religious, they pick out the parts that are not, you know, strengthening, and they use it against us. So it is very important for us to be enlightened. And I'm so glad to have you on to talk about, you know, what our DNA, emotional DNA does to us, and how we can shift that. So let's move into what you mean a little more. Give us a little more when you say systemic sentences, how they affect us. Give us some insight into that.
Sure. So a systemic sentence is that nasty little beast. You know, you're about to go and do something amazing, and up pops this little voice and it says, you shouldn't do that. In our family, we don't do that. Everybody is humble. In our family, everybody is quiet. Or when it comes to money, oh no, it's either love or money. It's either relationships or money. You shouldn't be greedy. Money doesn't grow on trees. Those are systemic sentences. And if you sit down with any area of your life and you write down what you think and what you feel and how you act in that particular area, and then you ask yourself, where does that come from? It's either an event that's happened to you, or it's an event that's happened to someone in your family. Usually it's got something to do with the family. And so those sentences and thoughts and feelings are passed on, and then we think they're ours, but they're not. They're ours to change.
They are not ours. They are ours to change. Absolutely profound. And it's a great place that I can take a break to come with a review, and then I come right back because I want to hear more about systemic sentences and how they impact entrepreneurs, you know, just connect that to entrepreneurship. So let's take this break for a review. Great. Such an informative podcast. Thanks for connecting. Very informative. Dave Shafi Hippie. That's out of the US of A. Thank you so much, Dave, for sending me this review, for writing this review on the Apple Podcast app. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for even going further, taking the time to give a feedback. All right. So if you wrote a review, please send me an email at henekawatkisporter@gmail.com and let me know. so that I can shout you out right here on the show. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get back. Welcome back. I'm speaking with, of course, Judy Wilkins Smith, with such profound knowledge and a wealth of experience. And, she's been looking at DNA, and we've been talking about emotional DNA. Now it's linking those to some systemic sentences that we've been repeating over and over, maybe because of some circumstances that happened in our lives, or someone we know in our families or friends or so on. And we regurgitate those and bring them on to the next generation. All right, so let's talk about how this kind of what I bring down to mindsets, conversations, imposter syndrome affects us as entrepreneurs.
Sure. So as an entrepreneur, let's suppose, and often an entrepreneur is not born into a family of entrepreneurs. It can happen, but often it's not. Now you have an entrepreneur who comes along and goes, "Oh, I have an idea." And what does the family say? Don't be silly. That's pie in the sky. You've got to be reliable, be careful, be cautious, be practical. And before we know it, we go, "Okay, I give. Never mind. I'll go and do the safe job. I'm done." Now, the next thing that happens is you decide, but I really, really, really want to do this. So you get into whatever it is that you want to do. And this is what I hear from them over and over again. Entrepreneurs tell me, "I am so afraid," the successful ones I'm talking about, "I'm so afraid somebody is going to find me out, and they're going to find out that I'm a fraud." Well, that's imposter syndrome, but it's actually not the truth. What they've got is what we call the pioneer push, not imposter syndrome. They don't have the answers, but they're willing to go and find them. So any entrepreneur who thinks they've got imposter syndrome, no, you don't. You've simply got pioneer push.
Wow, talk about perspective. Pioneer push. I like it. I'll be using that. I thank you so much for coming on and sharing that for sure. All right. So maybe you can take us through at this time, Judy, how to break some of those patterns, to stop those negative patterns and start new ones.
Sure. So what you want to do is take an area in your life where you feel stuck, and you felt stuck for a while, and you keep hitting the same brick wall, and it's so annoying and you can't figure your way through. Sit down, write out where you're stuck, and then write out what you tell yourself about that, what you feel about that, and what you make it mean about you and what you make it mean about others. And what you're going to find is the patterns begin to emerge, and also what actions you take around that. Now you're going to find the pattern that's trying to stop. So what needs to stop? Then what I want you to do is think about it and go, so it would be so nice if, and imagine how it would be if it were different. Then write down, what do you think about that? How do you feel about that? What actions would you take to make sure that that happened, or as a result of it happening? And now you've got the pattern trying to emerge. And that's that push, the pioneer push. Because what happens is you're moving from reliving ancient history, which is what we do a large portion of our life, to creating a pure, current, and just taking care of that inevitable future. So what you thought was an inevitable future now becomes something completely different. Anytime you have one new thought, one new feeling, and one new action, you're rewiring the brain. And in rewiring the brain, you're beginning to rewire the head, the heart, and the gut. And when you've rewired that, you're laying down new neural pathways, which means that your inevitable future can no longer be that. It's changed. And you're changing your emotional DNA.
Rewiring the brain. Wow, that is so critical. That is so important. And, a couple years ago, we perhaps thought that we couldn't change, the way our brain is, right? But research has shown that our brain is actually elastic and can be changed. And how do we change, our brains? By thinking differently. That's the fastest way, based on my own reading and research as well. and practice. That's the fastest way to change. So first we have to, as you're saying, shift the thought. It's a thought, that one thought, that unseen thing, that thing that we can't touch, that thing that we can't feel. Shift it. Take back the power that we already have. Take back that power and direct, so that we can direct our lives in the way that it ought to go.
So it's shifting the thought, and then it's shifting the feeling.
Right.
And you want to shift the feeling from a lower feeling to a higher feeling. But here's where the magic comes in. And we do this all day long in not very nice ways. We do unkind magic. So we tell ourselves something like, you're so stupid. How could you have done that? And the body cringes, and we feel it, and we sweat, and our stomach's in knots. What we've done is we've just told the brain, or the brain has just told the body, a story that the body believes, and the body is reacting. And so it becomes our truth. Exactly the same is possible when the brain tells the body a story that it can believe that is incredible. And that becomes our new truth.
So the thoughts goes along with the emotions, which now our brains and our bodies actually have to live out, because we've shifted those intentionally.
Exactly. The minute those two click and they wire together and fire together, you're going to have a new truth. So the truth isn't the truth. It's often your truth, but you can change it anytime you want.
The truth isn't the truth, but it is your truth, and you can change it whenever you want, because whether you believe you can or cannot, either way, you are correct.
Exactly right.
I like it. You know, it seemed to be a small percentage of our world's population that foster and nurture this kind of a thought process, you know, from our emotional DNA. How can we make this, Judy, in your mind? And I'm asking you a very big question, because, you know, but how can we shift that from that small percentage to go into mass appeal?
It's first of all why I wrote the book, because I wanted to get it into the hands of millions, not thousands, millions. The book teaches people what to do at a very easy level. It doesn't make it difficult. So that's the first one. The second one was I created 2 constellations meditations. So those are meditations that take you through a whole process of connecting to your ancestry. And those are on my website. And then thirdly are live events. I already do live events, and they are growing. We're expecting them to go very big starting next year. And the whole point of that is to engage so many people that globally we begin to realize our destiny is not in the hands of a few, but in our own hands, and we can absolutely shift it. It is not rocket science. We've just been asleep.
What I get from that, Judy, is that we who are the converted have to be intentional about helping to shift, you know, helping people to get to the place that we believe they need to get to, and give them the grace to do it. You know why? Because we, as you said earlier, that many people, or previous generation, they did the best they could given the resources, the circumstances they were brought up in. And so when we become enlightened, I believe it is our responsibility to teach. Once you've been taught, teach. Once, you know, you learn, share it so that other persons can learn as well. And what you're doing is commendable, Judy. Congratulations on the book. And I just want you to share the name of the book and just give a little, I did mention it in the intro, but I love to hear from the horse's mouth, as we say. Share a little bit about the book and just why you decided to write it.
Sure. It's called Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. And I actually was asked to write it for a long time and kept going no, until somebody said to me, well, you just have to. And eventually I went, okay. But the whole purpose of that was that people would say to me, we can't get to see you in person. How do we learn more? And so I decided to demystify a lot of this and to put it down into a book so that literally everybody could pick it up. there is nobody who picks up this book and reads it who won't have shifted. It's not possible. By the time you've finished reading the book, you will have shifted, and you will know that if you are staying limited, it's because you're choosing it.
That's by choice.
That was the whole purpose of the book, was to say, why on earth do I want a few people in my orbit who know the same thing I do? I don't. I want everybody to be doing well, because if everybody's doing well, the ideas grow, the creativity grows, we all see each other and enjoy each other. I don't want it for a few. I want it for everybody. And that was why the book was written. And I will say I've been very lucky. It's been extremely well received, and Psychology Today and Publishers Weekly featured, and Goodreads. And they're all saying to people, if you really want to move and you really are clear that you don't want to be a victim, here it is. And that was the intention of the book. Victim no more.
And so I am recommending this book as well, and I'm going to get it, Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, because just as I hear you share and just speaking with you, I know that this book, must have a wealth of information and knowledge to shift my own thinking as well, because we're constantly developing, constantly growing. Of course, if we're not growing, we're dying, and I'm not embracing death right now.
Agreed.
So we want to grow. Thank you so much, Judy. But before we wrap, I'd love to hear your final thoughts. And also, you mentioned your giveaway. You alluded to it, but we're going to now get into it. So share your final thoughts, where persons can get to you, and what you have in store for my community.
Absolutely. So where you can get hold of me is at judywilkins-smith.com. My meditations are there, along with discounts for you. The events are there. The book, of course, is available just about anywhere you can think of. And final thoughts. You are not a limited being, number one. Transformation isn't for the chosen few. It's for those who choose it. And if you understand that in every single situation, including what looks like a train smash, there is a gift, you will never be stuck.
Right. From I love that. From my own spiritual belief is all things work together for good. For they that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So all things work together for good. Not that all things are good, but they are working together somehow that you can see the good in something. You may not see it immediately, but there is a blessing somewhere that you can extract if you look closely. And if you're in that space of gratitude, if you continue to remain grateful and open to receive. Thank you so much, Judy.
And thank you. It's been lovely to spend time with you.
Absolutely. Judy Wilkins-Smith has been my guest, and what a powerhouse of knowledge and information. Just the way she presented in a very calm, sense of, I know what I'm saying. So I love that. I really love that. And I appreciate you for spending time with me. Thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you even after this conversation, Judy.
Thank you, Heneka. It was a pleasure, and I'm the lucky one.
All right, let's go into today's money tip, brought to you by Profit Jumpstarter, and is invest in less volatile stocks. If you're risk averse, you must stay away from volatile stocks, especially in these uncertain times. The price of volatile shares move more extreme ups and downs compared to overall movements in the share market. Remember, slow and steady wins the race when investing for the long term. Great tip right there from Profit Jumpstarter. Thank you. And thank you so much to you, my listener, for tuning into this episode with Judy Wilkins-Smith. What's the standout moment for you today? For me, there are just so many, but the pioneer push, wow, love that. So I'd love to hear from you. Send us the feedback at Heneka Watkis-Porter at gmail.com or on social media at Heneka Watkis-Porter. Now, you can also go to my website, HenekaWatkis-Porter.com, for all things podcasting. And you can also respond to me via WhatsApp as well. just through my webpage. So just go right there and connect with me. I want to hear from you. Thank you so much for always tuning in. And as usual, I end with according to the scriptures, and it says, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Psalm 107, verse 1. What good?